So Namibia is located in Southwest Africa. There's 2.3 million people that live there. It's about the size of North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas put together.
That's huge.
It's absolutely. But there's only 2.3 million people that live there. And in the southern part of Namibia, which is where my project is located, is actually the least sparsely populated area. It's mostly desert with grassland savanna, and only in the northern parts do you actually have woodland.
Okay.
And it's actually quite mountainous. So you have this combination of mountains with desert and plains.
Is it
So DEET stands for the Namib Desert Environmental Education Trust. We started it in 2003, and the mission of DEET is to protect the natural environment of Namibia through environmental education. So our main project is a center, DEET Center, where school children as well as adults can come for a week-long residential program. And while they're there, they learn about energy, water, waste, and biodiversity. And the special aspect of our center is that it practices what it teaches. So we don't just talk about the environment and talk about theoretically saving the environment or protecting it. Everything that we are suggesting and talking about, we actually practice ourselves. So from bucket showers to recycling to solar cookers, it's really a model of sustainable living. It's a working model. That is definitely taking the sustainability message home is what's most important to us. But we don't expect people to just copy exactly what we said and implement it, because everyone's home situation is different. And of course, like all people, there's certain aspects of the learning environment that they may have enjoyed and has spoken to them. So we hope that people actually take a critical look at what we're talking about and see what they can apply in their lives to make their life actually better, and thereby the environment improves. So I actually, I grew up in Connecticut and went to Bowdoin College in Maine, and I've just always had a passion for the environment, and I've always had a passion for Africa. I just had this internal calling that that's where my life should be. So when I finished with my studies, I went to Namibia with World Teach and spent a year teaching, and I thought, my plan was actually that I would teach for a year at a school and find a job. And I got very lucky, because instead of being put to a school, I was placed at an environmental education center called Africat. So when I arrived there, I thought I would volunteer for a whole staff of people, and the reality was that I got there and I was the only person. And I was 22 years old, and they said to me, here's your house, there's your center, good luck. And after panicking for a moment or two, I realized this is my destiny and I need to work to make this happen. So I spent 4 years of my life there and built up a program where school kids came for weekends. And I drove around the country giving presentations at schools. And that's really what opened my eyes and gave me the opportunity to learn Namibia and get to know the people of Namibia. Because I could stay with other volunteers, and I was in many different rural communities and got to teach many different school children. And it's while I was at Africat that I engaged with a learner, a student, who actually said to me one evening, he said, "Are you not concerned about deforestation?" And I thought, why would you tell me this? I mean, here I am teaching about the environment. Of course I care about deforestation. But he was seeing what I was doing. And at that other center, we always made a bonfire, because that's what you do when you go camping. And in his village where he came from, there was no firewood. And where Africat was, there was wood, but for him it was just unacceptable that I, as an environmental educator, could be doing this. And that's where I realized that I need to revise how I'm teaching environmental education, because it didn't matter what I said, it mattered what I did. And that's really been my life philosophy since then, is to practice what I teach. Definitely. I mean, I think through having grown up in Connecticut and through my parents, there are people in the New York area. But the connection to Lincoln is actually very special, because many years ago, when the University of Lincoln, the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, the Great Plains Center, came to Namibia, one of the people that came on the tour to learn about Namibia was Rick Edwards. And I still remember meeting him inside the DEET Center and him saying to me, "This is great what you do here." And I mean, many people come and say something like that, but afterwards I never hear from them again. And with Rick, it was different. He followed up with supporting the DEET, and a couple of years ago I wrote to him and said, we haven't been in touch in a while and I want to come to the States. And his reaction was, well, you need to come to Lincoln, Nebraska. And so it's been a great opportunity, because by coming 2 years ago was when I then reconnected with a former World Teach volunteer who also happens to be a Rotary Club member, Bev Austin. So it's been amazing actually to see how, for whatever reason, Namibia and Nebraska have been connected. The other place I've also been connected to is Germany, because I actually am a German citizen. But my parents had moved around a lot when I grew up, and so my father-in-law lives in Germany, and he's also started a support organization for us there. It is amazing, because this question is, of course, the most important question to anybody from the outside. And it is undoubtedly one of the most difficult things to answer, because I think so much of what happens is internal, and it's not something that we can see. We hope that someone comes to an environmental education center and then they would go back to their house and all of a sudden be, perfect environmentalists. We all know that that's not true. Just like if you go to your math class, you're not going to automatically go home and now be a mathematician, right? So there's a learning process. And I think one of the things that DEET does is it's such a wonderful experience that it not just touches the heart, it touches the heart, as much as it touches the mind. And it gives kids and adults that go there ideas. And what they see is that it's possible, with hard work and a good idea, to actually get somewhere. And one of the women that we've worked with a lot in one of our communities, her name's Veronica Kachukuru, and she's been coming to our center since 2010. Every year she organizes 30 women from her community. These are women between 40 and 60 years of age. They all have a monthly income of something like $100 and they come to our center and they learn about sustainability. And I went to visit her the other day, and she actually showed me that she got together with 4 other women in her community. They each put in about $10, and they went out and they bought some basic fencing material and some seeds to start their own garden. And she'd been telling me that she wanted to do this for years, and I never saw it happen. And now I finally came and it had happened, and she had this beautiful garden, and she gave me some vegetables from the garden. She insisted that I take some. And she said that they actually were able to pay themselves back already from what they had sold, and they were now able to buy some more seeds. And this was just within the first 6 months of operation. Well, the first thing they can do is actually support us and help us. So we have a website, which is nadeet.org. Because unfortunately, of course, there are many people in Namibia who just cannot afford to pay for the service. And as much as I would love to do it for free, it's not possible. So we're always looking for people who would like to support us financially. But we're also looking for other volunteers who are interested to help us. I think there are many people who might be retired and have skills that they can offer to Namibia. So that's also something that we are looking for. And then personally, I think it's also important that even if someone isn't inspired to now reach out to Namibia or reach out to DEET, is that maybe they just take one thing into consideration that they do in their life and change that to make it a little bit more environmentally friendly.